it's a tricky business to sort through, and that's why I meditate, so that I can sort through my thoughts and not grab onto the first thought that comes by, because the first thought can come from just about anywhere. I think,
Yeah.
the first appraisal, your first judgment about whatever your world is in that moment may or may not be, your path. And it's got to be this process of not throwing away all emotional thoughts, not throwing away all logical thoughts in favor of all the emotional thoughts. You know, there's no one size fits all in this world, is there?
My sponsor used to tell me that I wasn't responsible for the first thought that I had, but I am responsible for the second thought that I have.
Yeah, yeah.
And I kind of like that.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it may end up being the third or the fourth where you, yeah, but yeah, in psychology, we call it meta thought, META, like the Facebook name. But yeah, it's just this sort of the next level. There's the thought, and then the thought about the thought, and that requires an observer. That requires, within our own minds, sort of a detached perspective that isn't integrated with the rest of the ego's thought systems and the judgments about what is normal, the habitual thoughts and things like that. Or habitual, behavior patterns. They don't all serve us. Just because you've been doing it a lot and it's comfortable because of that doesn't mean it's good. There's loads of those. Yeah. Yeah, that's I think it's why we're here, to get good at that. It's like an ongoing sparring match with the mind, trying to figure out what's true, and what we're defining as true for ourselves, and what is our path ahead in any given moment. But you know that's the job.
I think that I would find a considerable measure of difficulty in figuring out which of the I feel like I shouldn't jump
Yep.
feelings is legitimate or just
Yeah.
anxiety, because this is like it's a high pressure thing and
Yep. Yep.
high
It's
stakes.
it's tricky business. I mean, when in doubt, just stay on the ground, right? That works to a certain point, but often there are thoughts that are based in, sort of lacking in skill, or I don't expect myself to come to rise to the challenge because of a judgment where I handpicked all the failures. I think that's what the mind does, when it's in negative mode. It'll handpick a storyline based on bits of the past, not the whole past, and draw a certain conclusion. And yeah, we can find ourselves in these thought systems, I guess you could call it, like a machine built on logic, where we can draw conclusions that are actually quite counter to what's best for us. I think that's part of the human condition. And this is where the art of detachment comes in. I
Ooh.
think the Buddhists may not be right about everything, but they're right about that. The ability to separate from the ego's thought systems, not hate on it, not hate that you have a mind that is a normal human mind, but at the same time, not get, I always call it getting dragged around, tied to the tail of the dragon.
Oh, wow.
Right. Does that make sense? So like we chain ourselves when we define the ego's first thoughts, whatever those compulsions are. If you define that as the only reality that there is because it's in your face, it occurred, it's emotional maybe, then we get dragged around. We get dragged into either the dungeon of being frozen and not acting when we should act, not, we judge ourselves as not able, right? And then we shut stuff down, and then nothing happens. And we're here to make stuff happen. Um, but we also get dragged into, the loop of attack and defend, because that's what the ego mind does. Everybody's got one. We have a mindset that is fearful. Everybody was born with one of those two as part of the software package, but we also can sort of shift off of that operating system, you know, and just say, oh, that was that mindset. Well, what does the cosmic mindset think of it? You know, what is like a bigger perspective on my life? And if people struggle with the idea of what would cosmic consciousness, mean, or say about this, well, then, okay, well, what would a loving grandmother say about your life? Like somebody that really just wants to see the best for you, wants to see you nurtured and expand, and your best skill set, blossom in the world. That's the perspective I hope that people kind of can listen for when we're in that other space, and make it kind of almost a conversation. I think that's a higher level of sanity, is when we're not married so much to define the ego's mindset, that's what I'm stuck with as the only sanity. Well, what if there was a conversation between the two, of a a more loving perspective, and what my mind naturally first thinks, based on its patterns. Mm, and I don't think it's healthy to push ego away. I've noticed that, um, particularly coming up through the Buddhist culture, ego is considered to be poison, right? The I, me, my perspective is, these guys, they shave their heads and they sit in their saffron robes trying to remove ego, like completely, and I am nobody. You can call me this name so that I know when to turn my head, but I'm not anybody. I'm just consciousness. And that's great for cultivating a cosmic consciousness connection, but it sort of bypasses the human experience. And I think that human experience, that is your identity through experiences, um, that helps to sculpt our greater understanding of our place in the universe. And I think that the humanness, especially the suffering part of it, is what connects other humans to other humans. Because if all you do is just say, all is well, the cosmic plan is unfolding, it's all good, and people are like, yeah, but I broke my foot. Oh, don't worry, everything's fine. Like, yeah, but it still hurts. So this is where we can lose our connection to compassion by spiritual bypassing. Everybody has that exit point, but sometimes suffering is so much that people have to swing the pendulum all the way out of ego, all the way into cosmic consciousness, in order to find their way back to center, where you just love everything. You love every part of your thoughts, even the ones that are defending or aggro, or self-deprecating, the sadness that can be, part of the apathy mental system. You just love every part of yourself. I think that's the answer. All of it. Mm. Not to say
That's
it.
complex.
Yeah, it's complicated. It ain't easy, but what else are you going to do, right? If you define yourself as all of it, if we define our ego self and its storyline, this is me, this is my journey through life, and therefore you can kind of predict the outcome of any given situation based on that. It's almost Newtonian, that my personality will respond this way, and other people who know me could predict my outcome. Well, that's narrow. you know so I can love myself for being that simpler form of myself. I think we all can just embrace it all, but have that level of detachment that comes from the vertical conversation, of a higher mind within your mind, and the quote lower mind, or normal mind, I guess maybe is a better way to call it, where they're having this conversation and you're not identifying as one or the other, but all of it. I think that's
Hmm.
that's that's the next level human that we're all becoming. Mm. I just wish religion didn't get in the way of that stuff. It seems to. It makes people want to spit it out. Anything that seems a little bit spiritual. Like, that's been there, done that. They don't want to.
Oh yeah, definitely. I guess I'm a recovering Catholic too. I was
Mm,
raised Catholic. That's not my
yeah,
jam at all. And
yeah,
I like pushed it so far away.
yeah,
But when I
but
finally got into recovery, and it was like
yeah,
all it sounded like all this God talk, but what
Yeah.
it actually says was a God of my understanding. So to find a higher power.
Yep.
Well, that, yes, I'm on board with. And it changes.
Yeah.
It's not static either.
Yep.
A lot of the time it's the universe.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yep.
it's many it's a lot. It's a different
It's bigger than our
approach.
little hard drives can can process, and we have to be okay with that. While
Yeah.
we're here, you're in a body. This is the way it is. You're going to see it as much as it is. But I do believe that as we transcend the old models of what it is to be spiritual and what it is to be human, like fully human, you go beyond that stuff, and then you can start to make sense of it from a larger perspective without the constructs limiting us. I think there's very positive aspects to probably all the religions. I don't know them all, but there's people get, they get what they're looking for usually, or at least parts of it, where you get that sense of relief and a sense of something, larger. That's great. Just the idea of an angelic realm that's great. And people wouldn't know about it otherwise. It's just I think that the stories were mistold to a certain degree as a self-serving distortion of what actually is. That's the drag part.
That's the drag part.
That's all right. We gotta, I mean, I think that the return of the idea of forgiveness again and again and again, especially when we start to seize up and go, oh, the Catholic Church or whatever, they've done so much evil.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Jewish religion, gosh, what are they doing to the Palestinians, right? All of these things, or the absence of religion in China causing, you know, horrible oppression, right? And it's so easy to cramp down with our judgment and then start hating, and then we lose the polarity of the system, and we don't get to see that the polarity, the two ends of the stick, are part of a whole system, a system that requires forgiveness and release, and letting go. But both parties, or whether it's an organization or in a group, or an individual, they're part of a system that is learning truth, learning what we desire, for the future, for what humanity can evolve into as a more loving species, so we can get our shit together, build spacecraft and fly around the universe, and be the UFO people on another planet helping them. I hope we get there. But right now we have bigger fish to fry right down here
Yeah.
on our planet.
It's so easy to get clenched up about things.
Oh,
So
hell yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
automatic. It's a fight to not react that way lately.
Oh,
Me.
especially lately, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of people that are, puffing up their chests because their side won, and it's in all of the conspiracy theories that led them to vote that way, or whatever the philosophies were that led them to be what the other group defines as insane, evil, whatever you want to call that. And we don't marry it all back together. We don't reintegrate everyone and everything until we can flip flop and look through other people's eyes, and maybe not forgive what is done, but forgive the perspective that led there, to see them all as, just somebody following logic, somebody following the news that they were listening to, or whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, that's, you can't hate anybody if you don't, if you want to end the war in here, you can't hate on systems or individuals. It just doesn't work. And that's not easy. That is not easy.
It's not. I get so comfortable in chaos so quickly.
Mm.
It's crazy.
It is. It certainly is extremely challenging. But I think the commitment has to be made at some point. I choose forgiveness. It's like a choice that is my way of life. And then when my lower mind, or whatever, my normal mind shows up and goes, judgment, that's wrong, that's evil. Well, I might be right that it is something that needs to change. Maybe it needs to change right now. Maybe there's a lot of that, but I can't turn it into a war where there is a separation between self and other. If my mind is to be at peace. in the process of fixing the world. It can't be about revenge. That's the ongoing war, you know.
Hmm.
But we're fed on it, aren't we? Like our culture, the things that people do, they work hard all day and they finally are settling down for the night and they turn on the TV and they watch death and violence and war, vilification, good guys and bad guys, and black and white. And
Mm-hmm.
and we're developing a thicker skin for violence, and that's needs to change.
Yeah.
You know, it's but it's just going to take some time, but it also, the ideas like this need to get out, that it's not everywhere. I mean, these kinds of thoughts are not in the mainstream media. They're not in the mainstream conversations. You have to go look for it. But there's a lot of people in this kind of a conversation. You'd be surprised that get it. You know what I mean? They've risen above the battleground and they're finding a way to make sense of it in a way that does lead to improvement. You don't want to be impotent to affect positive change in the world as you seek an enlightened perspective. Then you're useless, you know. Um, but at the same time, not getting drawn back into it. And as soon as you feel like, I'm clenching, I'm clenching again, you stop, you empty the mind and go, all right, I'm I'm choosing not to judge. I'm choosing to bring in the grace of uncertainty. It's a wonderful place, in between, fifth gear in reverse, that place of just I'm just not going to be certain. I'm going to choose to release the certainty that I initially had and go, well, do I know everything? That person I got pissed at when I was driving, maybe that's very human, or somebody cuts you off or whatever. It's very easy to clench instantly and judge them and hate them. And instantly, whatever you look at, their color, their car type, oh, he's a BMW driver. Oh, I hate those people. It's a car. How could you know anything about the person in the seat? And maybe he cut you off because he's rushing to the hospital because his wife is in trouble. We have no idea. And for me, that's the grace that allows us to soften us into a perspective where we lean a little bit further forward into that inquiry. I wish to know, I wish to understand, I wish to connect instead of push off, judge, and then stand on my moral high ground of being the good guy.
Ugh.
It's a duality. Good guys
Yeah.
and bad guys is a duality that splits the world in two. So they call this a oneness teachings. That's
Hmm.
I do believe that it heals the mind. There's a lot of great books and videos and all kinds of things that sort of there's this movement of people that are really affecting great change in the world within a more enlightened perspective. And lighter is a better way because you say enlightened, people are like, oh, who do you think you are? That's not what I mean. I mean, it sort of leads in that direction, but for a normal person to feel lighter would be great. If the average person did not suffer so much would be great. Um,
Yeah.
it's just,
It would.
it would be very helpful right now in history. But you try to pry the sword out of somebody's hands when they are determined, to fight evil. Good luck. You got to wait until they're humbled and on their knees and lost and defeated or whatever it is, and in that place grace can flow in. When people beg for help, that kind of thing. That then people are very coachable at that point. But prior to that, when they still have their armor on, step out of harm's way, give them the space to learn their lessons the way they're learning them. Don't even judge them for that trip. That's just kind of where they are. They might get through it and learn the lessons this time. They might not. I do.
That's so hard.
Sheesh, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you see people self-destructing, and you can see all the games that they're playing in their own minds to justify behavior patterns and thought patterns that are not serving them, and you just want to go in and fix them.
Yeah.
You want to go in and shake it. This is not worth it. You're wasting your time with this drama, or you're wasting your time with these, sort of self-destructive behaviors. But it doesn't work that way.
No, then I retreat into aphorisms and keep my side of the street clean and all of that. Those
Well,
fun sayings.
yeah. Maybe you might as well, in the meantime, you just sort of let them be and like say, yeah, you keep your lawn clean mentally, which is enough. It's hard enough to just, sort of deal with your own shtick. Your own, everybody's got their judgments and assumptions about the world that we have to sort through. And I really do believe that the soul of humanity is awakening, not all at once, but one by one, where people are starting to step out of their judgments and assumptions, step out of the roles that they're playing, where they feel compelled to do and say certain things, and wonder if there's another way. And that's the great shift. It's That's an exciting time.
That's, yeah,
Isn't it? I mean, if you think of it that
definitely.
way, right?
It's definitely a time of change.
Yeah. I mean, it feels a little bit like, okay, the tornado just came and wiped out the whole town, and we got, just garbage everywhere. The house is all flattened, and somebody looks and goes, really exciting times, right? And he just in the face.
Isn't it nice the wind stopped blowing?
Yeah, the wind, isn't this nice? The sky cleared up. Now we can see the trees from here because all those buildings are gone. Isn't that nice?
Perfect.
Because yeah, the suffering mind wants more of it.
That's so funny.
It hungers for drama and the story of powerlessness. That's what the ego consciousness is all about. It constructs its identity by its powerlessness and its sort of finite lifespan and physical limitations and all that stuff, vulnerability to sickness. And it defines itself as a real being because of its vulnerability. And it's destined to suffer if it lives alone, without that larger perspective. It's destined to be in tremendous pain, which is where most people are, right? Well, most people, a lot of people. I don't think it's fair to say most people. I haven't met them all. Um,
No, I've been much less panicky today, so thank you.
yeah, yeah, little by little, right? You just, I mean, you're going to keep having worry moments.
Yeah.
You're going to keep having the thoughts that are the logical consequence to the previous thought, right? It's the carrying out of momentum, of the inertia of that process. You can't hate or shame yourself for any of it. When we get scared because we're fearing for our physical well-being, it is absolutely natural. But it's based on a perspective that's very limited. In order to create that experience, of that, I'm seeing like a campfire. You need wood, you need air, you need heat to get that whole thing going. And in the burning in the mind of suffering, it does require several conscious efforts, conscious steps to engage that thought process, to hand pick the thoughts that lead to the worries, to loop those. You just keep playing them over and over in the mind, and we seize up. There has to be, an ejection handle. Get me out of here. These thoughts are obviously making me miserable. I don't feel like I can breathe. And in that space, we still have light. That's my experience. That in the darkest spaces of the human journey, we still have the light right there. Whatever you mean, so like the ability to transcend is what I mean. To rise up out of the assumptions, out of the feelings, and allow a more kind of easy, graceful, it's going to be okay kind of feeling from within, not waiting for somebody else to say, a doctor or a clergy member or something like that to say it's going to be okay. But it's awfully nice when somebody that's had a near-death experience is, by the way, it's okay, right? We
It is.
tend That's why people love near-death experience stories, because here's somebody with absolute conviction, not like I believe because I've been going to church since I was a kid. No, been there, done that. It's okay. Everything's fine. And our ability to stay here when we want to be here. I mean, assuming that that's in alignment, that's what's supposed to occur in terms of a soul's journey. Man, oh man, we can recover from anything, anything. I think there's a plan, but it's not absolutely solid. I mean, the whole life journey. I think when we get here, we'll be like, all right, I'll have an exit point when I'm 54, where I could leave if I want to, or I can just get back on the highway. I think that we have several of those possible exit points, but when we choose to get back on the freeway and re-engage life, there's more of us present and less of the old mind structures that were bringing us down. You just can't take it with you. It's like it's too heavy. And I've seen that with lots of different people, and sometimes it wasn't a physical thing, but more of a psychological experience where they sort of leave and choose to come back, and in the choosing, it's like the soul brings more of itself, and that more is so much more massive than the ego can conceive of. The I, me, person. This serial number. We can't get that, and we shouldn't, because it would be way too much. Your head would explode.
That's so cool.
And it's fine. We just have to sort of console ourselves in the not knowing that it is okay, and that's a tricky business. Like I'm trying to get comfort and solace from knowing less, from less certainty, because my certainty that everything is okay is a sensation. It's a feeling. It's not logic. And that's a whole new realm of how to operate the mind, through the emotional guidance system, some call it. Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Wow.
It's amazing, and it will continue to be more amazing as it goes.
Yeah. And that is when you decide if you have time to cut away or go straight to reserve.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, how many times have we made that decision? Every time you cross the street, there's, the possibility of an exit point. It continues, but I feel deeply enamored on this. There's a certain frequency of my mind where I love everybody because you've worked hard to stay alive. Every one of us has had to pick themselves up and dust themselves off, despite tremendous physical and emotional torture to stay in this game, to learn the lessons that we can't learn when we're out of form. That we have to come here for that, or someplace like it. But that's another conversation.
Yeah.
The multiverse is a whole other conversation. But yeah, we're right on track. We're right on track, following the evolution of the heart, following that process of recognizing where am I heavy, where is there the lead bricks in my hot air balloon that doesn't seem to want to lift off? How do I heave ho that stuff? All of those heavy judgments and assumptions. It might be about other people or the world, groups of people that we just sort of automatically judge because of programming. Self-programming is what reinforces those things anyway, though. So as soon as we realize it, we can step out of it and go, oh, and heave ho, there goes that brick. As quick as that, you just decide, wait a minute, I don't know anything about those people that I was pigeonholing into a tiny little category. I don't. And if I was to allow myself to separate out of the this is me trip into being them, even for a split second, you know, that guy I saw this, I was racing home to get the dog, but there was this homeless dude it was cold out. He's wearing rags. One of his the pants, his legs wide open today. I mean, exposed skin in pretty cold conditions. It's above freezing, but this guy, he's the kind of guy that normally, if I wasn't in such a rush to make sure that this dog was okay, I'd stop and I'd be like, here's some clothes, or can I help, help you out in some way? It's kind of what I do. Um, but even in that split second, there was a moment where I was him. And it was just another way to experience the world. There wasn't right or wrong. He's just experiencing what it's like to be on that side of society, as the raven or the jackal, or they call, that the outsider, that is not really part of the system, but has a unique perspective because you know, they're not going to work in their BMW. We need them. We need those people to be on the outside. And suddenly, I get just as I'm driving away, I had this moment of like really feeling enamored by his service to this world, to open up people's hearts, to bring forth compassion, as far as it'll go. I mean, not everybody's ready for the full compassion, switching in an instant perspectives of like, what if he was the one driving the car and I was him with my leg out in the breeze and my squirrely old gray beard walking down the street, looking for cans to collect. Um, Not everybody's going to go quite that far, but at the very least, to have a loving moment with them and not see them as garbage. There is no such thing as human garbage. It doesn't exist. It only exists to cover up the pain, to hide from it.
Life is a risk. There's a huge risk in life. The biggest risk in life is that you'll waste it. Is that you'll be 80 years old and kicking yourself saying, if only I'd done this. Oh, I wish I'd done that. The biggest risk in life is that you waste your opportunity of living it.